Hey everybody, how's it going? Today's video we will be covering MMA fighters who took the most damage. In addition, if you find this video entertaining, do not forget to subscribe, like, and comment on the next video you would want to watch. Now let's get going, since there are no standing 8 counts in mixed martial arts, MMA. This is typically one of the first counter-arguments for why MMA is safer than boxing. However, what occurs if a man is not defeated or pushed down? The outcome is typically severe brain damage along with speech impairments. It's a wonder any of the guys on this list are still alive, much less that some of them are still active in mixed martial arts competition. The expression, "take a lickin' and keep on tickin'" is emphasized. Many folks might be on this list, and I'm sure there will be a ton of comments in the comment area about who should be added and who should be removed. Even though the fighters on this list haven't had a lot of success in the MMA world, they are definitely deserving of the title of Most Persistent Man in MMA. Even while we think that every fighter that competes in the UFC or any other MMA organization merits recognition for risking their health to pursue their passion and provide entertainment for others, we have selected our best choices from the list. Marvin Eastman. There are situations when quantity matters more than quality. It's both in Marvin Eastman's situation, he's perhaps one of the journeymen in the sport with the greatest level of recognition. He has defeated Quentin Jackson, Vernon White, Alan Belcher and other opponents, but he has also been a nail for a while. He is most known, of course, for the terrible gash above his eye sustained when Vitor Belfort gave him a kick to the UFC 43. This is far more than that. In kickboxing, the guy has also been stopped 4 bouts by KO and TKO, the latest of which occurred on May 13, 2013. We used to joke among ourselves that journeymen such as Eastman, Jeremy Horn, Travis Fulton and a host of others should get $1 million as a sort of forced retirement for everything they had given up, blood, sweat, and suffering for the game. Alistair Overeem. Let's talk about puckered lips. Special thanks to Robbie Lawler. The Dutchman himself would have to receive the award for the worst and most horrific lip damage. It appears that Overeem is getting severely destroyed if he loses via Kotko. He took relentless punishment from the cage in a handful of his battles before collapsing to the ground. In addition to the beating he received from Sergei Kharitonov, Mauricio Shogun and Chuck Liddell gave him some significant body blows. Even if he is a skilled combatant, we shouldn't deceive ourselves into believing that this list is infinite. We're talking about the same guy who was knocked down in the last 4 seconds of the battle, and who also suffered one of the worst uppercuts from one of the deadliest strikers. He also had his lip split by Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Not even worth mentioning is the pounding he took from Bigfoot during their encounter back in 2013. Robbie Lawler successfully defended his UFC strap against McDonald for the first time at UFC 189 in July of 2015, in one of the greatest bouts of all time. In the rematch, Lawler also outboxed the Canadian star for the greater part of 3 rounds. But McDonald had the opposite effect in their UFC 189 rematch. By giving his merciless opponent a flawless roundhouse head kick that left Lawler with jelly legs and sent him flailing in the direction of the fence. With a barrage of punches, kicks, elbows and knees along the fence, McDonald's completely destroyed Lawler, splintering the champion's lip and ripping open an ugly wound on his head. Lawler survived, and after a close 4th round, came back to destroy McDonald's busted-up nose in the 5th, defeating the Canadian by TKO and retaining his title. During the post-fight interviews, UFC President Dana White stated that Lawler's lip gash was the grossest thing he had ever seen in his life. A cut that extended from Lawler's upper lip to his right cheekbone. Antonio Nogueira. In certain situations, a fighter's cumulative damage cannot be determined only by looking at his KLTKO losses. Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira is one such example. In their first fight at decision loss, he was badly beaten by Fedor Emelianenko, with vicious blows to his head that sent him bouncing off the ground in the opening frame. In addition to the injuries sustained from powerful blows, Frank Mir shattered his arm totally. However, he has also suffered severe consequences from his successes. He was slammed on his head by Bob Sapp, blasted by Mirko Cro Cop for nearly the entire fight, and he was dropped with a head kick by Heath Herring in their rubber match. It seems that a good portion of his career has been built around taking damage, a noble feat in the fight game, but punishing nonetheless. Gary Goodridge. You could tell Gary Goodridge wasn't the type of man to take things easy from the moment he made his mixed martial arts debut at UFC 8. After 11 Kotko's, Goodridge developed CTE pugilistic dementia, which he mostly links to his K1 career in which he lost 14 KOs. 90% majority of my wounds originated from K1 where head trauma and repeated head traumas are the only conditions present. In a 2012 interview with MMAweekly.com, Goodridge stated. Though it's astonishing to consider that a man has suffered 25 defeats by knockout, Goodridge, like former boxer and current trainer Freddie Roach, just accepts it as a fact of life having been a competitor. Mark Hunt. In addition to possessing arguably of the biggest hands in MMA history, Mark Hunt also takes hits from some of the biggest punchers in all of combat sports. Consider how few of the opponents that Hunt has fought have been able to finish the big man with blows. The only people who have been able to stop Hunt in kickboxing are legendary fighters Jerome LeBonner and Sammy Schilt, while Melvin Manhoef is one of the famous figures in mixed martial arts who have defeated Hunt. Hunt might not be the most versatile fighter in the MMA world. He is among the hardest fighters to defeat while standing in MMA history, despite having only recently had any kind of success in the sport. However, Mark managed to defeat nearly every scary fighter you could imagine and emerge nearly unscathed. Kazushi Sakuraba. We can't think of a single fighter who has endured more injury in their career than Kazushi Sakuraba, with the exception of Gary Goodridge. In their first battle, Wanderlei Silva completely destroyed him, was put out cold in their third and last battle having suffered a dislocated shoulder in their second encounter, and that's only the very beginning. Who could forget how bloodied and swollen his face was after taking many knees to the head during his altercation with the much bigger Ricardo Arona? It was his defeat by Mario Saramsky that was maybe the last indication of the harm he had sustained. In the first round, Sakuraba's ear was nearly coming off after a little over 2 minutes. Diego Sanchez. Diego Sanchez can take a serious knockdown, even though his MMA career hasn't been as successful as some of the others on this list. Over the years, Sanchez has fought in innumerable battles and suffered multiple facial disfigurements. After his matches with BJ Penn and Martin Kampmann, he was hardly recognizable. Given the amount of blood loss and swelling that Jackson's MMA fighters suffered in those 2 rounds, Sanchez is among the sport's most resilient warriors. It would be morally reprehensible to exclude his utter slugfest with Gilbert Melendez. Additionally, MMA aficionados may find their guilty pleasures in his bout versus Clay Guida. Even though the Dream hasn't had much success in mixed martial arts, it would be absurd to leave him off of such a list. James Thompson. Although James Thompson's situation might surprise some observers, it is by no means exceptional. A lot of big strong guys have had a hard time making it in combat sports. It's as like Mother Nature has determined that in order to benefit from so many genetic talents, a person must have a weakness, like a suspicious-looking chin. For a period, Shannon Briggs experienced the same thing. Before he was harmed, he had the appearance of a holy horror. Although Thompson has a list of commendable accomplishments, a belt with no notch is useless if you can't find your pants. 13 knockouts or takedowns is plenty. We must begin to realize that KOTKOs are associated with concussions, which are real brain damage. Getting hammered by one of the all-time greats, Kimbo Slice, was undoubtedly one of his most unforgettable experiences. Darren Elkins. Darren the Damaged Elkins is the first fighter in the history of mixed martial arts who has displayed their physical prowess to such an extent. It all began at UFC 209 when he was badly knocked out by Mirsad Bektic in his featherweight match. Elkins pulled off what is perhaps one of the greatest comebacks in UFC history by showing heart and winning. Elkins was the victim of some dubious tactics by Bektic after being outmatched in rounds 1 and 2 and getting destroyed. When the 2 men faced off, Bektic easily defeated Elkins, but in round 3, it seemed like Bektic was pushing himself too far by attempting to defeat Elkins. That gave Elkins life as he fought back against those blows and finally found himself on the verge of a heel hook finish. His expression was that of a guy who had just been beaten, yet it was also that of a true fighter. Even the battle he had in May 2020 with Nate Landwehr was arguably one of the most agonizing ones to witness, with both men howling strikes as they stood across from one another. Darren's physical look following both battles, in addition to his performance, is what put him on this list. Alright MMA fans, thank you so much for sticking around to the end of this video. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, make sure to hit the notification bell, and don't forget to subscribe if you're new. Also, don't forget to comment below what video you want to see next.